Alabama quarterback Mac Jones. And this is a guy that I look at, and there are a lot of questions that we will have to answer with Mac Jones, and I'm going to present those questions to you a little bit here in a bit. But I will tell you this. The guy played at a ridiculously high level. We could sit here and we could talk about the offensive line, which he had a massive offensive line and damn near a brick wall in front of him. You watch him stand in the pocket and there is nobody around him most times. And then he had a ridiculous set of weapons around him, whether you're talking at the receiver position or in the backfield. He was loaded with weaponry at his disposal. Guys would get hurt and the next guy would come in and he'd just be as deadly as the guy that just left the field. So it's still, look, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's still hard to do. So you say what you want about Mac Jones, but the guy, when he gets a clean pocket, he's cerebral. And we're going to flip this thing over and look at his card and talk about Mac Jones. Look, arm strength. I think Mac Jones has the ability to put the football wherever he wants on the football field. Again, it's not an elite arm. And you don't have, Joe Burrow didn't have an elite arm coming out, and he does not have an elite arm. Joe Burrow can get the football everywhere it needs to go, and it's the same thing for a guy like Mac Jones. Accuracy at all 3 levels. You're not going to find a situation in which Mac Jones doesn't give his guy a chance. When his feet are set, pocket is clean, and he's able to see everything with clear eyes and an ability to have his feet set. This guy's going to deliver it short, intermediate, deep, accurately, so that this guy can catch it and run after the catch. And I think that's been shown time and time again. And when you complete passes at a 77.4% clip, like he did in 2020, which is unheard of, you're doing something. And again, much like I talked about with Kyle Trask, these aren't bubbles and hitches. Trust me, there are a bunch of those built in the Florida offense and the Alabama offense. But you're also pushing the football vertically. You're also pushing it down the field. And he did it among the best in college football and the most consistently in college football. 4,500 yards, 77.4% completion percentage, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, you're going to find it very hard to find a guy putting up those kinds of stats in college football. It just doesn't happen very often. Process and progress. Again, a guy that can see the field, understand what's happening, and get through his reads and progressions quickly, get the football where it needs to go. Pro-style offense. This doesn't matter as much as it used to. I can tell you that, 5 years ago, it was a big deal if a guy played in a pro-style offense. If he was under center, you could see him taking drops, turning his back to the defense, being able to get to his track as he's handing the football off. These are all little subtleties that, used to matter. They don't matter anymore. So many of these offenses are now evolving to where they're adapting to guys that didn't play in a pro-style offense. It's not that big of a deal, but it's an added plus if you did play in a pro-style offense, which he did. And so it makes you feel more comfortable. It's easier to watch the film and be able to say how this guy translates to the next level, but it's also easier to put him into an offense and say, hey, this guy can do this because we watched him do it at Alabama. Caretaker of the football. He doesn't turn it over, okay? Like I said, 4 interceptions. This year, 7 interceptions for his career. When you go back to 2019 and his 12 games that he appeared in, 4 of them being starts. Only 7 interceptions total in his career at Alabama. Only 1 lost fumble in 2 seasons and 25 games. So he takes care of the football. He doesn't make many mistakes. Throws with touch. That's something that we take for granted as fans. When you evaluate quarterbacks, that's something that I don't think enough people talk about. Does this guy... I watched Dwayne Haskins coming out of college. One of the things I noted is he doesn't have a lot of touch. Everything comes out with a ton of velocity. And I just assumed, you hope that it gets better. But a lot of times if you don't see it, it's because it's not there. There's another guy in this draft that I feel like a lot of his passes don't have a lot of touch. It's 99-mile-an-hour fastball, and the changeup is 93 miles an hour. Not that big of a difference, honestly. And that's Kellen Mond, another guy that I feel like there's not a lot of touch. There are a couple of times where you see it, like, hey, he can do it, but you don't see a lot of touch on throws by Kellen Mond. You see touch on the throws by Mac Jones. He can loft it over a defender, over the middle of the football field, linebacker getting depth. He can put it over him with feathery, soft, drugstore cotton touch. Again, when you complete damn near 78% of your passes in a season, you got to be able to do it in a multitude of ways, and he's able to do that with touch as well. He controls the game at the line of scrimmage. That's something you don't see a lot of quarterbacks do. Is you don't see a lot of guys setting the protection at the line. A lot of times in college specifically, the offensive line is responsible for setting the protections. The center is calling out who's blocking what and making sure everything's sound up front. You can actually see Mac Jones setting his protections, making sure that this running back stays in. He initially was going out on the route. Now I need you to stay in here and pick up this A-gap blitz. We're going to slide the line to the left. Lucy. So they're sliding the line to the left, and everything gets picked up, and now he's able to dissect you with a pass to Devontae Smith on a catch and run for a touchdown. You can see him orchestrating things at the line of scrimmage. Rapid release, and he's a rhythmic passer. So, again, he gets it out of his hands quickly. All right, that's one of the things that saves a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, for instance. Gets it out of his hands very quickly. That's the same thing you get here with Mac Jones. He's a rhythmic passer. So he does everything in timing and rhythm of the play. Again, a very rhythmic passer. If a guy's supposed to come out of his break 12 back to 10, by the time that foot hits the ground to come back, that ball's out, and when he turns around, it's going to be on him. He does a really good job of playing within the timing and rhythm of the play. And then he's a winner. Again, not a ton of starts under his belt. Only 17 starts, played in 25 games, but he's 16-1, including a perfect season, 13-0, and a national championship in 2020. So say what you want. Ton of talent around him, all of that good jazz. He won games, and that's what it's about at any level. Doesn't matter. Weaknesses. Look, lack of starting experience. Only 17 games. It's not a ton, but you can get past that. We've seen guys drafted with less. Played at Bama. So what does that mean? He had a dominant offensive line in front of him. As I talked about, you're watching him in the pocket, and you could go quarters without seeing anybody even near him. It's amazing how he was protected at times. And then the skill guys around him. It's fascinating to watch the haves and the have-nots in college football. When you're watching the Ohio States and the Clemsons and the Alabamas, and they're running circles around their opponents. And mind you, it's not always UTEP that they're running circles around. They're running circles around South Carolina, and they're running circles around Mississippi State and LSU. They're running circles around teams that also are recruiting elite athletes, and it's just ridiculous. It makes his job a hell of a lot easier when you can throw it 2 yards to your running back and have him break 5 tackles, jump over a guy, and score a touchdown. It makes a hell of a difference when you can throw a simple shallow cross and your guy gets 1 block, takes it up the sideline, outruns the angle of the safety, and scores a touchdown. That's what he had at Alabama. So, can you put him on the field with guys with lesser talent and still get similar results? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Was his success a byproduct of Alabama? Or can he function with less talent but still get the football out to his receivers and running backs and still distribute the football in a way that's going to allow his team to maximize their potential? Limited mobility and not a playmaker. Look, his work is going to be done from the pocket. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's not a scrambler. He's even less mobile than Kyle Trask, believe it or not, which is really hard to do. But he's just not looking to run. There are times where you're watching him on tape and you say, wow, dude, just run. You need 5 yards, and he won't. He won't run. He can't even slide. It's hard to watch. He's not a playmaker, so that means he's not extending plays. He's not comfortable when he has to leave the pocket. You can see a guy very uncomfortable when there's pressure and when he's got to leave the pocket. And so that leads me to my last weakness, adversity. This is a guy that we heard Nick Saban talk about him having to grow up. And one of the reasons he had to grow up is he didn't deal with adversity very well. Speaking of which, when he makes a mistake, I watched this guy visibly tear himself to shreds. And look, that's not uncommon. Tom Brady throws a stupid boneheaded pick. He's going to really let himself have it. But there's a difference between knowing the mistake you made, saying, okay, I effed up, and then moving on and then sulking on the sidelines. He's a guy that in the past has sulked. I've watched him sulk over a mistake. You watch him in the national championship game early when Ohio State forces him to fumble. Watch him go on the sidelines. It took him a while to compose himself. I don't know if he has a 3 interception game because he didn't have any of those in college. He has a 3 Can he overcome that? Team's still in the game, but he's thrown 3 picks. Can he overcome that? Or will he succumb to the mistakes? He's won 16 out of 17 starts. If his team goes on a 2-game skid and he's not playing well, can he overcome that mentally? Or will that gobble him up? And then, can he operate in a dirty pocket? You didn't see it a lot. You didn't see him operating in a dirty pocket. In the times that I did see him in a dirty pocket, he wasn't very comfortable. You know, there are a couple of times where he's staring down the gun barrel and Najee Harris is running an arrow route over the middle of the football field, or a Texas route as some may call it. And he's got to wait for him to win, but he knows his guy is going to win. And so he's willing to stand in there just an extra tick. But if the pocket's dirty and he doesn't know where to go, you know, his first read isn't there and the pocket gets a little dirty and murky, he gets really, really flustered. He starts to panic. That's something that you definitely see with Mac Jones. But he's my 5th rated quarterback in this draft.
LouieTeeNetwork.